We're three docs talking about the breakdown. Well, nice to see you guys back in studio. We are doing another episode of The Breakdown. We got three docs sitting around the table. I'm Dr. Luigi Gratton, Dr. Krissy Ladner, our resident sports nutrition expert. You've got a lot of titles like the trifecta. We'll get into that another time. And Dr. John Heiss, our PhD biochemist, the man with the plan who helps design products. You're also an endurance athlete. You wear so many different hats. But thank you both for getting together so we can talk about principles of nutrition. We're talking a lot about sports nutrition. We're talking about foundational stuff. In this episode, I really want to cover carbohydrates because they're kind of misunderstood, and there's been an evolution of carbs. So let's get into it and start with what's a carb? What's a macronutrient? Dr. Krissy, maybe you could kick that off.
Yeah, love talking about it. So breaking it down really easily, a macronutrient, just fancy word for saying a large nutrient we need in large amounts. So we have carbs, proteins, fats. When you think about carbohydrates, we can get them in so many different foods. So, you can get them in plant-based foods, right? So you're going to think whole grains or rice or even plants like root vegetables, potatoes, carrots, peas, corn, they're everywhere. And then when we think of foods that maybe are more processed or man-made, we're thinking of like sweets, desserts, whatever it be. And we need them. I think there's a huge myth around carbs as they cause weight gain or high blood sugar, and they get this bad reputation. And when we think of our overall health, we absolutely have to have carbohydrates. And so they aren't neither good nor bad. It really is the intention and the amount.
Oh, I like that.
And so that I joke that I went to school for a couple decades just to talk about moderation all the time because that's really what it comes down to. But yeah, it's super important to know different types of carbs and how to utilize them. And then that's where the power lies.
Right. John, I want to talk first before I want to ask you a question about why carbs are vilified. But first, a lot of folks know you, they follow you on social media, and you do these extreme 100-mile bike rides. You've run these ultra marathons and marathons. Athletes need carbs, right? For the muscle and the body and the brain. Like, carbs important. Why do you think, first of all, why are carbs important? Number one, it's a very basic sense. And then why are carbs vilified? Why do people hate on carbs so much?
Yeah, so it's a good starting point. Krissy kind of teed it up with what these macronutrients are. You need them in large quantities. And we needed large quantities because we have to fuel our machine, our body machine, to give us energy to do things and keep us alive.
Right.
And carbs are that predominant energy source that the body utilizes, but it really prefers to utilize it. It's super, super efficient at using carbs and converting it into energy. Beating your heart, making your cells do cellular respiration, like keeping our brain alive. Like that is predominantly carbohydrate based, also some fat based. So those are the kind of the two things there. I think it's good for this episode. We're going to focus on carbs, I think, in the context for the everyday person. It's a performance podcast talking about 24. So I think we'll kind of table some of the performance stuff for athletes
maybe
to kind of condense that a little bit. But I think it's really good to dive into this, why they're so vilified.
Yeah.
And I think, people think, oh, carbs, the reason I get weight loss. And the problem with vilification of carbs is that they're found in these like hyper-palatable foods. So like soft drinks or
all the
candies
stuff that tastes
and treats and chocolate covered pretzels with some cream in the middle or
keep
something.
Keep going.
Yeah. You get the context. Like, I can see salivating over here.
I love carbs. This is my weakness.
Yeah.
Carbs is my weakness. But yeah, go for it. Keep going.
But think about those foods, right? They taste really good. And so you want to eat more of them. And you can't just eat one. And then those foods are typically low in fiber. They're low in protein. Sometimes they're low in fat, but really the low in fiber, low in protein. So now all of a sudden you eat a lot of it. They're not satisfying. So you get this, you can eat more of it. There's few biological cues to tell you to stop eating. And then it's easy to overeat. And so it's kind of guilty by association. It's not the carbs that are the problem. It's the problem of everything that they're in.
It's a great point. And I know we had talking offline, we were talking about, you guys were both mentioning when we spoke about protein, how the body's got to sort of disassemble protein. There's a metabolic tax where you kind of cleave off the amino group. I think, Krissy, you described that. And there's a little bit of, thermic effect of food. It's interesting. Carbs in their natural state, what John is describing right now is like, there's a fibrous component, which is what I want to get into right now. And there's like, there's a sort of a metabolic enhancement. But if you just take a carb and you like isolate it and you put it in a soft drink, you're just getting like a straight shot into the bloodstream of like, and that's not good. So it kind of wrecks the metabolism, right? It seems what you're getting towards.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, is it the carb or is it the thing that the carb is in? And if for people, even if you're on a weight, you're trying to lose some weight, if you're avoiding fruits and or vegetables because you think carbs are the problem, like it's such a misstep because you're missing out on fiber, you're missing on all these vitamins and minerals that are coming along for the ride with fruits and vegetables. You need calories and it can only come from protein, fat, and carbohydrates. So it's, again, getting this balance, put away the cakes, the sugary soft drinks and stuff like that. But I mean, fruit is one of those things where I don't think people are overeating fruit to the point that they're gaining weight.
It was put on this earth for a reason.
Absolutely.
So can we get into fiber a little bit? So you just mentioned, you kind of teed it up, John. Krissy, as the trifecta, registered dietitian, doctor, certified strength and conditioning coach. You wear so many hats. Fiber is really important in food, right? And what does fiber do? I mean, people think of fiber like, hey, I used to take fiber, I go to the bathroom, and that's great. So does it do anything else?
Yeah. I love fiber. Yeah, so you're going to find fiber naturally, especially in our plant foods.
Oh, I'm sorry. Fiber is a carbohydrate by definition. I should point that out, right?
And I love talking about the different names that carbohydrates have because you might hear people say like, oh, I don't eat any sugar or I'm going sugar-free. And it's like, but you can't because a carbohydrate is a sugar.
That's right.
I think what people are indicating is that they're trying to watch the added sugars or the simple sugars that are isolated, like you were saying, just like in soda or sweets by themselves. But really, sugar is a carbohydrate and fiber is another type of carbohydrate. The cool, fun thing about fiber is that our body can't break it down. Just the structure in it, it's not going to break it down. It's not going to get calories from it. But that doesn't mean it's not absolutely necessary. We have to have fiber for satisfaction or satiety, for gut health, to feed our gut microbiome or all the fun little bugs living in our intestines, which, oh my gosh, we could do a whole thing on gut-brain axis and mental health when it comes to the gut microbiome. But having fiber is super important for so many things. I'm even thinking it synthesizes vitamin K. And so we need to be having that daily. And there is a little bit of a sweet spot. I call it the Goldilocks spot where you don't want to have too little fiber, but you also don't want to have too much fiber.
Right. Get gassy.
Right. There's some complications there, but I know John loves talking about fiber,
let's
so
get into fiber,
I'm curious what you have to say.
Go for it, man. Wax point. Anything you want to talk about. Well, first of all, I think it's important for the audience because you touched on a few things, but so fiber is essential. Is there a certain amount that you recommend? I know you said the Goldilocks, not too much, but is there kind of a basic amount? I'll usually say about 25 to 30 grams. Is that kind of what you recommend as well?
Absolutely, yeah. And
Every
I think
day?
obviously there's individual variances, but 25 to 35 is kind of the most recommendations I'm often making. Okay.
And a blend of different types, like you get a little soluble, insoluble, maybe
insoluble,
some apples, some salad, and so different types of fiber. So John, what do you think about fiber? I mean, what do you get excited with fiber? Because fiber can be boring.
Carbs predominantly come from plants, right? Plants are known for fiber. And if you think about a carbohydrate is a hydrated carbon chain, that's carbohydrate. So the plant's taking CO2 from the atmosphere, it's carbon, it's taking water, and it's combining the carbon and the water to make these long chains of hydrated carbon molecules. Our body, we use protein for structure. The plants are using fiber for their structure.
It's like biochemist.
The
I
bones.
love it.
You're breaking it
But
down.
this is great too because it helps demystify it. I think people think carbs are bad, and if you bring it down to like, but is carbon bad? Is oxygen bad?
These are essential. No, keep going. I love that.
So some plants produce more, single carbon chains, and those are your sugars. But the fiber is the interesting one that I think is super. It's got its health benefits because our body, we don't necessarily break down these complex carbon chains. We just don't have the enzymes to chop it up. However, our gut microbiome, they've got these specialized tools, these enzymes to break it down so that your gut loves the fiber. I love to tell the story because as the gut breaks down these fiber, the bacteria are releasing these compounds that bathe our intestinal cells. And these are called short chain fatty acids.
So let me freeze for a second. So just so people understand, that when you put food in your mouth and it goes down this long tube over 20 feet till it goes to the exit, there are bacteria lining that tube, and they are actually eating the fiber that we can't digest. And because of that, they're making certain compounds. So go ahead.
Correct. And these compounds bathe our intestinal cells, and these are kind of these special health molecules, very non-scientific term, but our intestinal cells love these compounds, and they basically feed back to our body, and they're producing all kinds of health molecules. These intestinal cells are actually producing GLP-1, which is a hormone that we heard about with all GLP-1 drugs. And so there's this really beautiful feedback loop of eating fiber. It's healthy for the cells. It's giving us satiety feedback. And one of the real things that's happening lately is we're seeing an increase of colorectal cancer.
Yes, this has been tracking in the news.
I think there's some uncertainty of like what's driving it, but one of the prevailing theories is around, for the last 30 years, there's been an increase in processed foods and a reduction of fiber intake, and our cells aren't getting these healthy signals that the bacteria are making because we're eating less fiber. So, that's a carbohydrate. I think, I can't emphasize enough to eat enough fiber, fruits and vegetables. Some carbs are going to come along for the ride, but the net benefit for health is so high that worrying about 15 grams of sugar in an apple, it's not, problematic.
So well put, because clearly, and I think about governments around the world making public health recommendations. Before med school, I did a master's in public health. And so many of the campaigns that we try and drive in public health, I know you both have been involved in this, is trying to get, 5 fruits and vegetables, 5 alive, high five. Everyone's trying to make it cool to eat, get your greens in. And to your points earlier, most people are eating a modern processed diet, and it's kind of hard to get broccoli and carrots in every single day.
Yeah.
Because they're just not available in the store, and they're not available, you really got to sort of work. Whereas, maybe 500 years ago, they were all over the place, right?
Absolutely.
That's how we ate. So anyway, I think it's really interesting what you guys are suggesting. So fiber, I think we get it, 25 to 30 grams minimum. Men and women both need about that amount, maybe a little bit more for certain, but make sure you get your 25, 30 grams. Soluble and insoluble. In the body, feeds the microbiome, as you said, makes these short chain fatty acids, kind of tending to the garden inside your gut, right? Making sure everything's cool. We're going to get into some sugar. What were you going to say, John?
Well, I was going to say, I think, I think it's maybe good. We could talk a little about for someone who does want to maybe lose some weight or is a little bit concerned, like what kind of advice would we give them about moderating their carbohydrate intake? Because I think it is a viable strategy. Where I think we try to demystify carbs aren't necessarily the problem, but I do think having excess carbs can be a problem. And so maybe we can put it in context of like how much carbs should I get, what should I cut out, and like what should my diet look like? Maybe talk about that a little.
I think it's a great point. Actually, we should go for it with that. I think, but really, so we were talking offline earlier. So I'm older than you guys, 56. I was joking, like back in the Stone Age when I was in school. But when I grew up in the 80s and even the 90s, there was a tremendous backlash to fats. It was in the United States. It was like, don't have fats. Everything's a low-fat diet. And carbs were actually considered healthy. So it was like the high-carb diet. And a lot of the foods that were available in the stores, you guys were little kids, were, a lot of processed high-carbohydrate foods. And so that was considered okay. Protein wasn't even tracking back then. Like no one really talked about higher protein levels. But it was anti-fat. You couldn't have fats. Now fats are considered healthy when you get the right types, right? So I think it's interesting from the food supply, the way carbs really, to your point about vilification of carbohydrates, they were so available in the food supply, and then of course in most Western societies, rates of obesity and overweight have gone up. So clearly there's a lot to talk about, but if we can just get into sort of basic recommendations on carbs, if you're working with a client, Dr. Krissy, like what do you tell them about carbs? And then what do you tell them to don't avoid grapes, but are there certain things that they should be avoiding?
Yeah, I think so. I always start with the basic and ask people, tell me what carb sources are, because I want to make sure we're on the same page.
Right.
And I think we're not all growing up knowing what a carb versus a protein versus a fat is. So and most foods aren't just one source of something. So knowing where do I get my carbs, super important. And then I do think it's important as well to understand simple versus complex carbohydrates. And I think initially, sometimes you say that and people like, oh my gosh, we're getting into some science. It's like, no, it's really easy, I promise. So a simple carb, they're all the same is the beautiful thing. They're going to be the same carbs. It's just how long does it take to break down and go into your blood. So a simple carbohydrate like some juice, that's simple to digest. It's going to go really quickly into your bloodstream, whereas maybe an orange, so an orange versus orange juice, it's going to be a little bit more complex because there's fiber in there. Now, if you get into a whole grain bread, that's going to be even more complex. So it's kind of on a scale, right? And then you think, okay, so what is carbohydrates doing? They're providing my body energy, and my energy is coming from that glucose that's in the blood. And so you want to make sure that we are having, it really depends on the person, again, your age, your activity level, your timing, but having, I hate even putting recommendations out there because it's so wide, but around 40 to 55% of your daily caloric needs need to come from carbs.
Gotcha.
And I get that that's a 15% range, but that's a good thing, right? Because you can individualize. But we want to make sure that we are keeping our blood sugar stable without having large spikes. And that's why it's important to know where these sources of simple versus complex are, or how to build a meal around something simple, adding protein to it. That's going to slow the digestion, because that's when we get into it's easy to overeat. Because if you're having a spike in blood sugar, it's going to come down really quickly. Your body's going to release insulin. It's going to move it out of the blood sugar. And then your body's sensing low blood sugar and you think you're hungry again. So it really is about being strategic with your carbohydrates on the timing and the amounts. And it's something practical that I think everyone needs to learn. And it's also, it really isn't that complicated once we kind of get into our own routine.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you're touching on metabolic health right now, which I love. And we were on the road. I was traveling with John recently, and we had a pretty big lunch, this working meeting. And then he's like, hey, let's go out for a walk because I want to talk about, like, he's like, I want to work on this glucose sink. I want to make sure we get rid of this glucose. So talk about carbs going to glucose, kind of the metabolic thing that you just touched on. John, why is this important in the sense of metabolic health? And I know we could talk about this for hours, but maybe you can give like a basic idea of what this means in terms of metabolic health.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple tricks. I mean, having elevated blood sugar for a prolonged period of time, right, is associated with negative health outcomes. So I think the idea of if you do have high carbohydrate meals or high glycemic foods or your blood sugar spiking, some simple movement starts to pull that blood sugar out of the blood and moves it into the muscles. You still have this problem of total calorie intake, though, right? That doesn't really change that. And so when I'm working with a client who is interested in weight loss, for me, the overarching thing is total calories, right? Calories in, calories out kind of problem. And so they need to reduce total calories to lose weight. So that's like number one. If they're reducing, let's say hyper-palatable processed foods, and by reducing some of those foods, they're going to reduce some calories and they're going to reduce some of those highly processed sugar things. So it's kind of like those two tools go hand in hand, but I think it's important to separate it. Then next thing I try to emphasize is this protein and fiber intake for a number of reasons. One, the protein is going to give you a feedback loop of feeling full. The fiber is going to slow down the digestion of some of these carbs. It's also going to have these benefits for the gut. So it's like total protein or total calories, reduce hyper-palatable excess processed carbs, which Krissy made a good point is we're not talking about reducing fruits and vegetables. We're talking about reducing, sugary sodas and candies and cakes and the donuts and things like that.
Stuff. No, bad stuff.
Right.
Bad stuff.
Add some protein and fibers. And then, the definer dials is, adjusting the carb intake to your protein level. If you're sitting at the office all day, you kind of threw out some numbers. Maybe it's 150 grams a day of total carbs, preferably from whole foods, complex carbs, potatoes, fruit, vegetables, even rice is a good option. And as you get more and more active, you're going to dial up that carb number to meet your energy demands. So that's kind of the framework I try to think through.
I love
like
that.
It.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah.
I do think it's important too. I'm going to call you out, Dr. Luigi.
Yeah, go for it.
They're not bad foods. When we label a food as good or bad, and I think that's kind of what happened with carbs, is that we can put this guilt or shame on ourselves of like, oh no, I'm having a soda. Why do I like soda? And it's like, okay, if you like that, I love dessert too. How does it fit in? Let's be intentional about it. You know what it's providing you. So maybe your portion is different. What are you having it with? And then also recognize the physiological effects that might happen. So you might eat, let's say, a slice of cake, and you're feeling satisfied initially, but we know it's low in fiber, it's low in protein, like John was saying, so you might feel hungry pretty quickly after. And so we have to be aware emotionally that that physiological hunger, I'm actually okay because I'm looking at my total daily calories. I got it in. I might feel hungry right now, but it's likely because I just had a whole bunch of simple sugars.
Right.
And so I think that can be really helpful too, to help coach ourselves in that emotional regulation of, okay, I know that I'm getting in what I need, and I can say no to hunger sometimes.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think last thing on this point, before you maybe want to wrap up, but I like to keep the dose in mind. You know, thinking like I try not to have people sweat the small stuff.
Right.
Like worrying about 1 or 2 or 5 or even 10 grams of kind of sugar is it's pretty inconsequential in your total daily calories. You know, even adding a little bit of sugar to your coffee, like it's such a small amount.
Yeah.
I think what you need to worry about is like the sugary soft drinks. You're eating 30 or 40 grams like instantly. Like that's the work that needs to be done. Not, hey, am I going to lose a gram or 2 or 3 over here? So it's like you got to kind of put things in perspective.
I love that.
That's a great point. You know, that reminds me. I know we got to wrap up this episode because we can talk about sugar all day long. But years ago in clinic, I was eating a bag of baby carrots. And I was seeing a patient, and the patient said, aren't carrots, they're very high at the glycemic index, the speed at which, as you were saying, the speed at which sugar goes into the body, gets absorbed, it's really high, and those carrots are bad. And I was like, yeah, but the glycemic load, to your point, John, the glycemic load is like nothing. There's really no impact. So putting things in perspective, whether it's a grape or a carrot or a fresh fruit and vegetable, as opposed to a can of soda, I think it's really important.
Absolutely.
So I love the context you guys are bringing. So carbohydrates are important. They're macronutrients. Fiber is a carbohydrate. It's essential, about 25 to 30 grams. We want to blend it, soluble and insoluble. We want to make sure that we're getting, we're having that ratio of carbohydrates with protein that you spoke of, John. And I think making sure the microbiome, all that great stuff, all the benefits that we get from carbohydrates. And I think keeping things in perspective is the take-home point that you guys are making.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it's great. Well, it's 3 docs sitting around the table doing the breakdown once again. Appreciate you guys, Dr. John Heiss, Dr. Krissy Ladner. Thank you for taking the time to discuss sugar and carbohydrates.
Thank you, Dr. Luigi.
Yes, my pleasure. We're going to sign off on this episode,
Okay.
and we'll have more coming soon.
Sweet.
We're 3 docs talking about the breakdown.